Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coffee and Podcast. We are on a quest to cultivate freedom for victims of human trafficking, all while drinking really great coffee. I'm your host, Philip Clayman. I'm also one of the co-founders of Three Tree Coffee in Statesboro, Georgia. And today I'm very excited to have Jenna Collins on the show, who's the co-director of Prodigal Pottery. Prodigal Pottery employs, equips, and empowers women who are fleeing domestic abuse and or human trafficking situations. We at Three Tree have actually been partnering with Prodigal Pottery for quite a few years now, buying some potted mugs from them. So I'm super excited to learn a little bit more about this organization and what they're doing. Before we dive in, it's always worth mentioning in episodes like these that we talk about some more sensitive topics around ending human trafficking. And so we just want to encourage a listener discretion if you're not ready to talk about some of these topics or listen to some of these topics at this time. So let's go and dive into the show. Jenna, thank you so much for being here. We sent you a bag of coffee, and I'd love to hear what you think. What'd you think of the coffee?
It was really good. I'm very picky about my coffee, and I've had some from other countries, but this bag was really good, and I've been very productive today. So I would say it worked wonderful.
Nice. The coffee worked like it's supposed to, and thank goodness you liked it. You know, if you didn't, we'd probably just edit that out. But I'm kidding. But no, super glad that you enjoyed the coffee, and I'm glad it's helping with productivity today. So let's go and dive in. Why don't you just tell us a little bit more about you, who you are, and where you're from?
Yes, like you said, my name's Jenna Collins. I'm serve as the co-director of Prodigal Pottery. A little bit about my background is I come from a background of early childhood trauma. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, homelessness. I was a IV heroin addict for 10 years. And so I actually went through the program of King's Home, which is a part of Prodigal Pottery. And so I've been here almost 6 years. And in 2022, I took over alongside with my other co-director, Amanda. And so now we are completely survivor ran.
Wow. Okay. And so you went through the program, King's Home, or the organization King's Home, that Prodigal Partner closely works with to employ women who are in these situations. And so, how did you hear? So how did you hear about King's Home? I mean, you're clearly in some sort of rough situation. What got your attention to know about King's Home?
So I was pregnant with my third child, and I had I like to call my burning bush moment, where I couldn't imagine my life with drugs, but I couldn't imagine it without it. And I found out I was pregnant with my third child, and I was terrified because I couldn't stop using. And I went to a treatment center in Birmingham, and it's only 3 months long. And towards the end, I knew I did not want to go home. I knew would probably die if I went back home. And I had a case manager who mentioned King's Home. And so I called, and they're like, we don't have a bed right now. And so I waited a little bit longer, and, God always shows up because I was scheduled to leave a week out, and King's Home called me back and said, we have a bed. And so I left straight from treatment and went straight to King's Home in September of 2018.
Wow. And how long so you now get into the King's Home. What does that program look like? How long is it? What sort of activities are you doing to try and to help you get out of those situations?
Absolutely. So King's Home, it is originally a group home, but it's also a shelter for women who are fleeing domestic violence and homelessness. And so it's a 2-year program. And while you're here, you can work and save up to 75% of your income so that when you leave, you have a good nest egg to start with. It's very goal oriented. So you meet with your caseworker, I want to say every 3 months, probably sooner than that. And we go over your goals and have you completed these goals? And they have in-house daycare so that you don't have to struggle. A lot of us aren't able to afford daycare when you first come in. And so they have in-home daycare, and they will transport you where you need to go until you are able to purchase your own vehicle. And a lot of the activities when I was in the program consisted of so many amazing people in the community coming in and holding Bible studies and parenting classes and us being able to go out into the community and do some service work ourselves because, we can't forget the verse, but we're here to serve, not be served. And so I think it's really important, and it was really important to go back out and serve the community that was so gracious to serve us.
Mm,
But
absolutely.
so we have counselors on campus, and so we would go once a week to counseling. Um, and so you kind of stayed busy while you were here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've mentioned a lot. So the King's Home, in terms of what it offers, it was a place to stay. It was transportation to places that you needed to go. There was counseling involved, and then there was employment. And so, is Prodigal Pottery the primary form of employment? Is making these potted mugs, or are there other options that the King's Home works with?
Yes, so Prodigal Pottery is a part of King's Home, and so if there's availability, then this is usually the first stop for the women who aren't quite ready to go back out into the workforce. I know for me, I had felonies at the time, and not even Pizza Hut would hire me. So, but there are other options in the community. A lot of women do go out and get jobs, at fast food places or retail. We just in the last year opened up our first retail store. And it's called King's Home Collections. And as another way to employ women, we are teaching them how to refurbish furniture. And so so right now there's two women at the two women right now at the store, but also teaching them valuable skills of retail and customer service and just different things to get acclimated back into the community. But we're kind of the place where, you know, a lot of women weren't able to work when they're in these situations. Some were um, restricted financially by their partner where they have never had any work history, or some just need to be guided back into the workforce to get back on their feet. And there's so many different situations where some people are just really young and just starting out. And so there's a wide range of reasons. I know a lot of the bigger reasons is a lot of the women's backgrounds.
Is it common for some of the women going through these programs to have felonies? Is that the primary reason why it's difficult to get employment?
I would say a good portion of it. I would also say that some women are just not quite equipped yet. They're not ready emotionally, spiritually to go back out. And I believe, like for me, when I first came to pottery, I started out painting, and I knew I needed to be at pottery because, like, I was finally able to just sit still somewhere and allow. I didn't know I was allowing God to work in my life, but to just be still and not get caught up in the hustle and bustle of other environments, but also I need to learn some new behaviors because a lot of restaurant jobs and other jobs, unfortunately, there is a lot of drug use and other things. And I needed a strong foundation, just like a lot of these other women, before going back out into the community because we've already tried building foundations and it was built on sand. And so we would fall every time. And so I would say, for me, I know from my personal experience and as well as a lot of our women, a lot of them do have things on their records that prevent them from getting certain jobs. And I think one of our biggest goals is to empower them to want to do more than just work in fast food or in this, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But let's change the course a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, change the trajectory.
Mhm.
It's interesting. This is kind of reminiscent to me. We actually had someone on the show from Freedom Studios a while back about candles. Y'all should definitely check out that episode if you haven't heard it. But there was a lot of talk about the power of dignity in employment, and when you kind of make something with your own hands, or when you're kind of responsible for a task that you can fulfill and accomplish, it's really empowering, especially when maybe there was a lot of situations that you couldn't control. Maybe it's addictions. Maybe it's, once again, having something on a record that I'm prevented from being able to get a job. There was a lot of dignity that really was almost more powerful than almost any other aspect of the job. And it seems pretty awesome that Kingsholm has, it seems like, some different options, right? There's Prodigal Pottery, but some other options that these women can get jobs and get some training and really kind of build that desire back of, I really want to fight for this. I really want to work hard. And I want to have dignity in the job that I do. Um, you said you started as a painter. What are some of the different roles that people can play when it comes to making these mugs?
Absolutely. So, and I agree with you on the dignity part because and we can get into that later. Some of the different roles, obviously, like I said, painting. We have they call it clay world. They've named each section their own thing, and so we have four women that make exclusively make our products from the clay, and then we have a group of women, like the mugs you have, who make the pendant. We have two women who exclusively make the pendants, and then we have five women who exclusively paint. And then we have two women who exclusively help shipping and packaging. And the roles can look different in different aspects, but what we like to do is I usually start them from the front and work our way back. And if they're like, hey, this is giving me anxiety, I'm not feeling making stuff. Okay, like that's not where you feel empowered. Let's move you somewhere else. And so we will move somebody around until they are in a spot where they feel empowered and that, like you said, they have dignity and they feel good about the job they're doing. And so we often will play merry or musical chairs, if you will, around the studio until somebody's comfortable in that.
Nice. So a couple of different roles that people can participate in. You said it was a 2-year program. How long did it take you to get kind of comfortable in that setting? Or maybe where did you start to notice a change in yourself while you were in the program?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I know for me, I would say when I got promoted to manager, originally I was the studio manager. And I remember just feeling empowered for the first time that somebody saw me other than what I saw myself, and that somebody trusted me with money. Somebody trusted me to get tasks done, and somebody had enough. Um, they had enough hope in who I was and what I could become to take a chance on me. And I would say that's really where I could see that awakening in me was when Jamie, the founder of Prodigal Pottery, really just took a chance on me and allowed me to step in a role that I had never done before. And she, I like to tell her all the time, like, she's the reason I am the woman I am today because she gave me an opportunity to do something that was really scary, that was uncharted territory. And she just took my hand and guided me the whole way through. But I also think when I got my first car and I remember thinking like, wow, people actually trust me to like drive where I say I'm driving. And when I started making better choices daily is when that empowering really for me came because I had only ever made choices based on self and what I wanted and what I felt was right. And so knowing that there was a different life to live when that didn't seem like a choice before, if that makes
Wow.
sense.
Absolutely. Well, and I have one more question about your personal story because I think it's amazing. And I know I asked you before the podcast, if you're open to sharing about it, and you seemed open. But I think about others who may be listening and maybe getting into situations that you were in, or I guess my question is, what would you share with someone that what's something that what's advice you would give on how to avoid even getting into those sorts of situations that you shared? You shared a little bit about addiction. What would be advice if you could give advice to yourself before maybe things started going the wrong direction? What would you tell yourself?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Oh, I I would like to think that I would tell myself to ask for help because I wasn't the kid that asked for help. Even as a middle schooler, I'll tell you a small story. I can remember being in such crisis as a child, not knowing it was crisis, where I felt so out of place from my family. I would often go on the back porch at night and look out into the woods and swear that a camera crew was going to come and tell me that I've been swapped at birth. And so, like, I've always felt different, and I wish maybe I would have asked the right people for help. I'm not sure if it would have changed anything, but I really think if I would have got been courageous enough to ask for help, that maybe it could have been a little bit different. Um, but I,
Wow.
yeah,
I think that's incredible advice and an incredible testimony. So I just appreciate you sharing more about really your personal story in all of this, you know? Um, let's kind of now bring it to Prodigal Pottery. And so you're the co-director. What does that look like day in and day out? What are you doing as co-director of Prodigal Pottery?
so my role as co-director is a little bit different than Amanda's. Amanda deals with the wholesale side. I deal with the day to day. I deal with the day to day, the marketing, the photography, this the retail. So we sell on our own website and on three other platforms. And also, I'm the director of retail of our store. So I do all the store's marketing and making sure the store is stocked and all the things. So really, the day to day operations and the shows we do, just a little bit of everything over here. Just a little
Yeah,
bit of
marketing
everything.
marketing is a little bit of everything, it seems like these days. So, and the pictures online are fantastic. So, way to go on that front. Um, okay, so you're kind of over more of those sides of things. It seems like Prodigal Pottery has had lots of success. I mean, so we started partnering with you. I want to say 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Um, but it seems like y'all have seen a lot of success and have grown a lot. Have you seen a lot of growth, and has that been kind of challenging? Has it been exciting? How have you responded to that, having been there since 2018?
Yes, I would say that God has definitely blessed us with growth since I've been here. And I know since when we first started, sorry. Um, I want to say in 2020 when we had got furloughed, and so all of us were just like sitting on our hands waiting to figure out what was going to happen, and we joined a wholesale site called Fair. And we when we came back, we just kind of blew up out of nowhere. And we went from like 2 or 300 wholesalers to now having, I think we have now like almost 1,400 wholesalers. And it has its challenges for sure. So, uh, right now we originally only had, I want to say, 8 women. Now we have 15, and that makes life so much easier, and we get to employ so many more women. But oftentimes, like, we've already grown out of our other studio, and we're currently outgrowing this studio. And then just the firing process takes a while, and so trying to get all that. But also, I think the biggest thing for me is making sure the women don't feel like it's a sweatshop, essentially. Like, we're not here to breathe down your neck about this, and this, even though we do have a business to run. But ultimately, at the end of the day, our women's mental health and well being is the forefront. And there are days that we're like a little bit more, okay, guys, we got to get all this out oriented, but ultimately, that they still feel safe and secured. And that can become challenging at times when you have, like, we just did a 3,200 sauce cup order, and we just palleted it and put it on the porch today. And you're like, all right, guys, we all got to paint 3 boxes each for the next 3 weeks, So it's very exciting because I think my passion is getting to share our mission, because ultimately that's what saved my life. And so that's what makes it exciting, is so many people getting to learn about what we do and who we are, and that they get a piece of our women's healing process. And every mug that you guys get, and that every piece that people buy from us, that was somebody's healing journey, and they got to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love to hear that you've seen growth. And I love to hear, and it's inspiring to me that in spite of growth, you've stayed very true to your mission, right? We didn't just do this to make a lot of money. We did this to invest in these women. And so we're going to stay focused on that, even if we grow big, right? I just think that's really incredible and noble that y'all stayed focused on that. And I also imagine that, I imagine hiring people who've gone through trauma brings difficulties, right? And so, have you noticed unique challenges to that? And how are some ways you've overcome some of those challenges of working with people who've been through some pretty traumatic situations?
Well, I know for us, I think something that a pattern I notice is that w- we always have to remember that all of us were raised so differently. And some people had parents, some people had one parent, some people had grandparents, some people grew up in foster care. And so we already have that challenge at the forefront is that we were all raised so differently in different environments. And then you add on the trauma that is endured in those time periods. And now we've stacked something else on top of this little sandcastle, if you will. And a lot of times, conflict resolution's a big one. Learning how to work with others when you feel triggered is a big one. Having meaningful conversations and making sure we're not reliving our war stories. That's a big one. But some days some people just need a mental health day and it's time to go home. And we show a lot of grace in that. I had somebody today that was like, "Hey, I can't do this today," and I'm like, "All right, well, you can go home." Like, um, but there are challenges because there are days that I've spent a lot of time outside on the back porch talking to the women. And there's days that we are all productive and we get everything done. There it's just it fluctuates, and I really see it when the seasons change because some people's had more traumatic things happen in certain periods of their life, and there's a lot of different aspects. But I really think um, communication and just being mindful of other people's because it's really hard to show grace to others when you don't feel like any grace has been given to you. And so that's where me and Amanda kind of step in. And, I had somebody the other day text me from here and they were like, "Well, I appreciate that, but I've never had anybody show that they loved me the way you guys have. And so I don't know how to receive it." And so I really think breaking down that fourth wall that's been built and kind of creeping our way through. um, so
Yeah. Well, and grace, as you're sharing this, the thought that comes to my mind is that grace is almost a form of trust. You mentioned so much a part of your healing in this program was the trust. They trusted me with money, they trusted me with responsibilities, they trusted me with a lot. And even grace is kind of in this situation a form of trust, right? It's saying, if you say you need some space, I trust you. I trust you to come back. I trust you to work hard again. I trust that if you need this mental health day, you need it. I trust you and how you're feeling about this. And it seems like that's a big part of the healing journey that these women are going through. Would you agree? Do you see that the same way?
oh, absolutely, because I've had women make the comment, "Thank you for trusting me with this because nobody's ever trusted me with this much responsibility." And in my eyes, because I have so much responsibility now, to then like it may be just packaging an order and making sure that it's correct. And I think it's very humbling for me to be brought back to that place of when, wow, this person trusted me to package this correctly, and how big those things really are. Because we don't know sometimes how these women have been talked to negatively. We don't know the old ideas and old perceptions and old beliefs that have been instilled in them. And to know that even something as simple as packaging one order can empower them to be like, "Hey, I felt so productive today because you trusted me to do this." Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. So my next question would be how many, on average, doesn't have to be an exact number, but about how many women does Prodigal Pottery help? If it's a 2-year program, how many people do they have in the program at a time? And then what does success look like? So you stayed in Prodigal Pottery. You're now a co-director, but I imagine there's not so many spots, right, for a co-director or something like that. So people are clearly leaving this organization for other opportunities. How many people do y'all see at a time, and what does success look like for them?
That's a good question. So, and in the home, where we employ the women from, they can have 12 moms, and that doesn't include the children. So you can have anywhere, a mom can have up to 3 children or sometimes 4. So you have 12 bedrooms with 12 single moms, and upstairs you have 12 women. So you at any time you can have 24 women, and that does not include the kids. So it's very, very full house. And um, we can we also employ women from Well House, like I mentioned earlier, which is a safe house for women fleeing sex trafficking, and we also employ women from another place in Birmingham called Love Lady, which is a treatment center. And so sometimes we have spots that we fill in for them as well. So right now we have 14 women. Um, 2 are from Well House, 1 is from Love Lady, and the rest are from King's Home. Um, and I think success in this kind of environment is very linear because everybody can't be measured by the societal idea of what success looks like. But what I would like to think that looks like is like I have a woman who left last year and she got her peer support specialist certification so she can work in treatment centers, and she just got married and she got both her kids back, and like she's doing I think success in my eyes is God allowing you the privilege to do the things in life you didn't think you deserved to do,
Mm.
getting to do the things you didn't believe you were capable of doing. So I think success looks like God allowing God to come in and heal those parts of you enough to where you can go out and be of service and help the next woman that needs help. You know, for me, my first goal when I got here was to buy a cell phone because I had never had one. Like I'd had a cell phone, but I'd never had my own phone plan, and I'd never paid a bill. And like now, 6 years later, I've I've bought a house and I've gotten married and I have chickens and goats and doing just things that like I'm so grateful for that because those are things I didn't think I'd ever have, and to me that's success. Um, and so that would be my answer, is that women being empowered enough and equipped enough to go out and do things that they never dreamed that they would get to do, and that
Mhm.
looks different for everybody.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Um, Tell me a little bit more about the products at Prodigal Pottery, because of course you have mugs, but you have some other things. What's your favorite product? Let's start there. What's your favorite product that you make at Prodigal Pottery?
Oh, that's a hard one. Okay, so we make these for a wholesaler, but so I actually have a tattoo of it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a vase with the Kintsugi gold leaf holding it. And we do these for a wholesaler called Hope Heals, but the meaning behind them is why they're my favorite. And they're just these little vases. But the meaning behind them is that, at least for me, is that God can come in and heal all those broken parts of us, and we're all still beautifully broken, and that even new life can come out of broken vessels. And so that's my favorite piece, and I get the gold leaf them, so that makes it even a little bit more fun. But um, if I had to pick up one of our pieces we keep on our line, it would probably be our spring artisan stuff because it gives me serotonin and it's all fun colors.
Nice. Okay. And so you mentioned there's a firing process. You got the pennant station. So I guess give us just kind of a quick. Let's say we have a vase or a mug, whatever you want to choose. Take us kind of from beginning to end. How is that made?
Yeah, absolutely. So excuse me, so everything starts in the clay room, and in the making, it can, but believe it or not, depending on the weather and the precipitation outside, some pieces dry faster than others. So if it's really dry outside, we can look at an overnight dry. And then when it's been like it has been in Alabama lately, we're going to look at it taking a few days to dry. So when we make it, we have to leave it out at least overnight, or a few days to air dry. And once it is air dried, the technical term is called refining, but we call it loving because God loves our rough edges off. And so we love the rough edges off the pottery. And so that way
Love
it's
that.
nice and smooth. And when it gets painted, there's no creases or anything like that. And so once that happens, depending on how wet they are, they might have to sit another night. And then they get wheeled into the kiln room. We have 4 kilns in this room. In the winter, it feels amazing. In the summer, not so much.
Yep.
And the kilns can fire anywhere between 8 to 10 hours, and they can get up to 2000 degrees. And so the bisque, which is in its raw form, it gets put in the kiln, fired, it gets hardened. And once it comes out of the kiln, it goes into the paint room. It gets painted, and that could take a couple hours depending on the piece and how many. And then it gets wheeled back into the kiln room and gets put on each individual stilt so that it does not fuse to the kiln shelf. And then that fires for 8 hours, gets unloaded the next day, and then it gets wheeled into the stock room until it finds its forever home. I know that was long winded, but so
Yeah.
the pottery process is it can be very tedious and very time consuming, but it's very healing at the same time and therapeutic.
Yeah.
So, like y'all's
Absolutely.
mugs, they would take the pendant and they would mold it on it. We use PVC pipes because it's this perfect circumference to the mug. And so they would stamp your logo into the clay, cut it out, mold it onto this PVC pipe, and put trash bags over it so the moisture gets locked in and so it doesn't bow up. And so it dries like that. And then it goes through the same process.
Wow. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put a PVC pipe in this mug that we have. I'm so curious now. That's fascinating.
You got to get
That's
the
so
right
cool.
size.
That's right. That's true. There are different sizes of PVC pipes, but that's just super neat, and it's fascinating to hear. You can't just crank one of these out super fast, right? It's a long process. You have to time it well. It takes a lot of care and attention to make this product, which of course has a lot of symbolism for what y'all are doing, the work you're doing for investing in these women. So I just think that's an amazing metaphor of the work that you're doing, and super neat. We'll go ahead and end it with this. Just share with me a highlight story, just any story of your time with Prodigal Pottery that just shares a little bit more about your experience there. Just any story that stands out of just a time that really stood out to you as being a powerful moment with Prodigal Pottery.
Yes. Oh, I mean, the one that comes to mind, and was when I got to work. At least in I'll share a personal one, and then like, is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So the first I think powerful moment for me was that I was doing my first show by myself, and I had a cash box and I had all the product, and I was headed to downtown Birmingham, and I remember it was like 4:30 in the morning, the sun was rising, and I just remember I just started sobbing and I called my boss and I said, "Thank you for trusting me to be a what's the right word? To be an ambassador for Prodigal Pottery, essentially, like for trust. That goes, like we said earlier, goes back to trust because that was one of those aha moments of, well, my life is really changing. But if I had to think about a story for here, it would have, you know, it's a hard thing to ask because I get to witness a miracle every day.
Mm.
Every day those women walk through the door is a miracle. Um, but I think one of the most powerful testaments is when I get to witness moms get their children back, because it's such a heavy burden of what we identify ourselves like we're bad women or bad moms or all the things, but to watch women go hand in hand and in arms with their child again is what really gives me confirmation constantly that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to because um, not everybody gets to witness that miracle. And I think that's probably one of the more powerful things is watching women get a relationship with God and do the next right thing and watch what God's has in store for their life come true.
Mm, yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And y'all are doing an incredible thing at Prodigal Pottery. So, just Jenna, thank you for what y'all do. Thank you for sharing so much about your story. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, that does it for today's episode, listeners. But I want to share one more thing. So, Three Tree Coffee does sell Prodigal Pottery mugs. And we know some of you have already purchased them. But if you have not gotten one before and you want to support Prodigal Pottery and Three Tree and buy some, go check it out. It's on our website. It's titled Prodigal Pottery Mug under the merchandise area. It's also in all of our shops. And we actually want to give you a discount if you're listening today. We want to give you 10% off that mug if you use the discount code PRODIGAL, PRODIGAL. Use that discount code and you'll get 10% off the mug if you order online. If you're a part of our coffee and club, you're actually going to be getting a better discount next month. This is a part of our club features. We do a lot of fun perks for our club members. And so be looking out for that, club members. Better discount coming for you to get Prodigal Pottery mugs. And if you want to learn more about the coffee and club, you can check out threetreecoffee.com/club. It's a monthly coffee subscription. And once again, comes with a lot of free perks like discounts on the Prodigal Pottery mug. Awesome. Well, this was an amazing episode. I'm super pumped just to hear about what Prodigal Pottery is doing. It makes me feel even better about supporting this organization. We knew we loved them from the beginning. And now, wow, amazing work, building trust, building hope. What an amazing work. And so, listeners, thank you for listening today. And thank you for helping us cultivate freedom.